I really think Brian Kohberger needs to get a change of venue in order to get a fair trial.
I don't know. I think he has a better chance of being acquitted if he stays in Latau County, actually.
Let's talk to well-known jury consultant Susan Constantine and see what she thinks. Is it possible to get a fair and unbiased jury? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And today we have Yoli Medina with us. Yoli, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me again.
So it has been a huge issue, and now we're seeing with everything that happened in Massachusetts with the Karen Reed case, how are they going to find a fair jury for Brian? This has been, a worldwide phenomenon where you have people in other countries on YouTube diving in, trying to find out what's happening. How are we going to find people in Idaho that don't have strong opinions?
I don't know. I've always, in one respect, I've always thought, as a former reporter and media person, I've always felt that with the pervasive media coverage, in this day and age, in the 21st century, just moving the court around isn't going to find any new jurors. But I guess, the Kohberger people are going to be contending that they need to move this case out of Latah County and get it to another county in order to get a fair jury that isn't permeated with so much of the direct coverage. And also, the jury pool in Moscow is pretty small. So those are the reasons that they're saying they need to get out of there in order to get a fair trial.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that we also have that church there, that the Christ Church, where they have issues with the police, and you might get a couple. You might get all it takes is one to be on that jury to say not guilty, and it's a hung jury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and look at the damage that can do. I mean, this case has been there's been buildup, and now the trial is set for June 2nd, is it, of 2025. And that's so long after the crimes. And what if it's a hung jury and they have to do it all over again? I mean, so it's a tough issue.
Let's go switch over to a well-known jury consultant, Susan Constantine, and see what she has to say about the matter.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about Brian Kohberger. A big issue in the case is that they're going to have this motion for a change of venue. Does it make a difference where they try that case?
I don't know. I don't have any research on that. I can only tell you that I live in the area where they tried Casey Anthony and George Zimmerman right here in Orlando. Right. So for the Casey Anthony, we pulled in jurors from Pinellas County. We didn't go there. That, I guess helped her because she was found innocent. Doesn't mean that she wasn't guilty. But anyway, that's another story.
Right.
Kohberger, I think that because of it being a college town, changing a venue, I think is a good idea. One of the things that I have been asked about the Kohberger case is about this relationship that he has with his attorney. First of all, Kohberger's behavior to me is very cold and callous and disassociative. So he quickly glances to his attorney, quick little smile, very just acknowledging. He's not very good with social interaction at all. So it's been pretty bad. He had started to feel more comfortable with his attorney, holding the gaze just a slightly bit longer was showing me there was somewhat of a trust relationship building. And then all of a sudden you saw them sitting further apart. So what happened? So there's a lot out there, and people have been asking me what happened. And I say, when there's distance between two people, there's distance between two people. So what changed? I don't know what changed, but something changed. So we need to kind of keep an eye on that. But I do think.
And this in the face of both Eliza Massoth and Anne Taylor both have said, we think he's innocent, which a lot of defense attorneys don't necessarily say that. They say we're going to assure there's a fair trial. But they said, no, we think it's innocent. But getting back to the change of venue, I always thought that there's no way you could change the venue in a case in 2024 with the massive publicity. There are people talking about this case all over the world. But I am led to believe by people that know a lot more about it than I, that the real issue is that there just aren't that many potential jurors in Latah County. So which is it, and how do you decide whether changing venue is even something that needs to be done?
Well, at this point, because it is so closely connected to this college town, I think that in itself is going to be very hard to find anybody. And I hear what you're saying, because it's not only just within that area, it's global. Because I was in England and I was in a grocery store and heard people talking about the case in the grocery store
Really, about Kohberger? Really?
about the Kohberger case. And I'm sitting here listening to myself, oh my God, I can't believe this is like gone international. But you're right. It is like, does it really make a difference? I think it boils down to, do we have enough people in the pool that we can pull from? I think it's more that than anything, because too many people were either out there, out in front of the courthouse. People that served on the jury, know somebody that knows somebody within that small little town. I think it's going to be very hard to find impartial jurors in that particular area. Now, you go outside of it, they're not living and breathing it every day. So it may help. I don't know whether it will, but it may help. And if it makes both sides feel better about it, then why not? Because then they've tried out a different venue. And if they came back with a guilty verdict, then they'll say, hey, well, we tried it. This was our best ditch effort.
Yeah. Yeah, because the people there in Moscow, Idaho, they were inundated with crowds coming in, these people who want to see, and they want to look around, and it was kind of stifling for them, I would imagine, and so they may have already a bias about this case and want it to be over, and just want it to be over, get somebody convicted, and just forget it, get out of here. It's a small town.
So, what, Susan, your advice in part to the attorneys defending Karen Read was that there was just too much evidence, and they've got to winnie it down and decide what was effective to the jury and what wasn't. Do you think that same advice would be good for the Kohberger defense, that it's such a complicated case? I mean, the probable cause affidavit, say what you will about it, went on for 18 pages. There's been a lot what would be your advice to the people that are defending Mr. Kohberger?
I think as in any case that you try, that you've got to be able to get out the evidence that you want them to hear in a very clear and concise manner, without going into a lot of elaboration, adding a lot of filler information that only distracts people. Don't distract them. Keep focused. Stay laser focused. Only present what they need to hear and end. Because when you add that pauses, or those quick pauses, or after making a statement, let it sink in. Just don't keep rolling. Be cognizant of that. You've got 12 jurors on there. They're not professionals. That there's going to be people in there that don't really learn by auditory sensory. Okay, know that most jurors are visual and kinesthetic. If you hit them visually, paintbrush your words, be very clear and descriptive, and then tug at their heart, how it's affected them, the emotion of it. And what happens is attorneys, and I love attorneys, you guys are my clientele, but the thing is, you guys are brilliant. But also what happens is just talk too much.
Yeah. I think we've heard that before, haven't we?
Sorry to break this to you guys, and it's not everyone, but overall, I don't care if it's in a courtroom or in a boardroom, it still applies. The same thing applies. 61% of all jurors are humans are visual. 23% of them are kinesthetic, meaning feeling. They make decisions based on their emotions. The remainder is auditory. What we found is that most attorneys, their learning and communication style is kinesthetic, but primarily auditory. So when you give so much information and it's not intriguing enough, or it's not focused enough, you're going to lose them. And the research found that most of this really important evidence is lost by 84% because it's too long. Wow. Keep it concise. That means with your expert witnesses, and also, make sure that when you're choosing your expert witness, that they also follow that same rule. And who's more compelling? In this day, we know with court TV, the CSI factor is huge. I think that you're going to have a lot of jurors really piped into this one, because when you're dealing with a serial killer, is a little bit different than somebody that may have hit somebody with their car or backed into I think you agree. This is a guy that's like, people are fascinated with. How could this guy do this? And why did he target them? They're going to be very interested in this case.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate any closing thoughts, Lainey, Yoli? Closing thoughts here?
Well, I have, I guess, a small question for Susan, because you mentioned how people are going to be fascinated with this case and how crazy it is. I can't, and you mentioned the appeal to emotion. I guess I'm just curious on your opinion on how much, I know obviously they're told to focus on what they hear in court, but how many of these jurors now are going home, going on YouTube, watching a million videos and letting that impact their decision? And what's your thoughts on that?
I've always wondered the same thing. Like, I think the question really is, how are they able not to? Like, to me, it's just like a natural draw. Like, you're so curious. A human instinct is like, I just gotta, I'm just gonna just peek in there. Will they? I think,
yeah.
I think it's natural to think that there's a possibility that they could. I don't know. If you ask my husband, and he is a guy that draws a straight line, he doesn't go outside the line. He literally will go up to the crosswalk and go right over. You'll never jaywalk. That's a guy that you'd want on the jury, because he will not go outside of what the rules are. So is
he an engineer?
He's in sales,
okay.
But he is a VP in technology sales. But just
adjacent.
I knew it.
He never goes outside the lines. Me, I'm crossing here.
Yeah.
I'm taking a shortcut, But
all right, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, Susan. We appreciate you coming on and talking to us. I know that you have a lot of stuff to do and you have a busy schedule, but we appreciate you giving some time to us. Thank you.
See you later. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Pleasure meeting you. Bye.
Bye.
I think it is a fair assessment to say that she had a good point in the fact that a lot of people just might want the case to be over with, and that might tamper with the jury pool. And then on top of that, talking about how much of a phenomenon this has been around the world, even some small comments, like how she was saying, like things like Kohberger sitting a little bit further from his attorney. These are all things that the jury is going to be exposed to. Like, what's this, stopping the jury from coming on YouTube and finding our channel talking about it here? I'm glad I don't have that job to be picking out the jury. I will say that.
Yeah, well, she was in the UK in the grocery store, and she heard people talking about this case. Last time I was in the grocery store, I was reaching up for some olive oil, and the thing I used to buy for $3.99 is now $10.99. And this woman I've never seen before in my life, we looked at each other and went, "What?" So that's what I hear in the grocery store. But the people way over in the UK are talking about the Kohberger case. Just reinforces one of my points that how do you get a fair jury anyway? Are you gonna move the case to the moon? I mean, I don't know.
Aliens as jurors.
Aliens, yeah.
But the one thing that she talked about Kohberger sitting further away, or they're sitting apart.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what if the chairs were just situated that way? I mean, it's not
Lainey,
like
I don't want to sit next to you anymore.
Andrew wants to do the podcast.
Yeah, you didn't. I mean, it'd be one thing if you saw Kohberger come in, sit down, and then move away. I mean, you didn't see that.
Yeah, that or the other thing is that he's brought into the courtroom by these by the deputies, and they're built like a football linebacker. And if the sheriff's deputy tells you sit over there, you're going to sit over there. So I don't know. I mean, she has a lot of knowledge, and I defer to that. But at the same time,
because look, they say when people, when you're analyzing body language and micro expressions, they say when you blink a lot, you're lying. But here's the thing: I have dry eyes. Here's the thing: I have dry eyes, and I frequently have to blink a lot because if I don't blink, my eyes get drier and drier. So they tell me blink. You need to consciously blink. And so I'm blinking, and people might think I'm lying. Oh, she's lying. She's blinking.
Well, yeah, and Lainey might remember this. I had eye surgery last year. I had a little non-cancerous growth in my eye, and it was day surgery. I was in and out of there, but for a while it was very dry, and they gave me these special drops. So I've been blinking a lot lately too. And I mean, come on, don't read stuff into that. I mean, so that's
I feel like I
too.
have to explain to people like I have dry eyes. That's why I blink. So
Yeah, and I've explained the same thing to people like right after my surgery, still a little bit, but not so much. I was blinking a lot and putting eye drops in, and every now and then, I put too many eye drops in, so I'd be talking to somebody, a little tear would go down my tear.
Aw.
Why are you crying?
It's fine. I was gonna say if blinking means lying, my brother's in trouble because he has like a little tick that he does that it's just like constantly, and he's a sweet little honest boy,
Hmm.
you know. Like, oh,
So the other thing I wanted to ask her on the drive-in, I thought about it and then I forgot about it. So always take notes, by the way. If you're going to comment about Kohberger sitting next to his attorneys, I don't know if you've noticed that on the other side of the room in the prosecution, Bill Thompson used to always be the guy that spoke. He was the spokesman. He always, had something to say. But the co-prosecutor, Ashley Jennings, has taken a more active role, and some people feel it's because the prosecutor really stepped on his own foot during the whole thing about the surveys. He said, "Oh, we can't get these surveys out. We should not let this information get out to the public." Then when there was a public hearing, he starts reading them off in public. So a lot of people felt that he stepped on his foot, and Ashley Jennings has pretty much taken over. But that's not the comment I was going to ask her about. Have you noticed how far apart they sit, Ashley Jennings and Bill Thompson? They really sit really far apart. Now, I don't know if that's because there's body language there, that psychologically there is a rift between the old guard and the new guard. She's a relatively young attorney. Or if it's just that they have a lot of papers, and they just need to,
that's where the seats are.
Right.
I
So
mean,
I don't know if you can read anything into that or not.
I mean, these things, and then saying, "Oh, we think is Anne Kohberger afraid of Brian?" I mean, is Anne Taylor afraid of Brian? That was a Freudian slip, Anne Kohberger. Sorry.
And the other thing is that Eliza Massoth actually put her hand down on his shoulder, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to read into that.
That's just having a connection with your client. Like,
is it courtroom theatrics though? Is it courtroom theatrics?
Maybe.
I mean, I'm gonna shoot something at you might not like, but if I have a female client, especially a young female client, and I put my arm down on her, I'm going to get all kinds of comments, and they're not going to be nice comments.
That's true. And also, one other thing about the body language and the touching and all that, it was clear to Susan Constantine that Kohberger is not a very social person.
Oh,
that
right.
He's awkward in social situations. It's clear to her. And it's always been clear to me and I've never heard him talk. I've never heard him talk in a conversation. I've never seen, but just the way he looks, and he looks like he has a lot of anxiety. Like I see him, those commercials that say "Got Milk"?
Yeah.
Okay. I see Brian Kohberger's face and I see "Got Anxiety." To me, he just seems so full of anxiety that he's just awkward. And I'm glad she brought that up, because I wonder how Kohberger felt when Attorney Massoth put her hand on his shoulder. Did he flinch? I don't remember if he did or not, but that would be interesting to look at again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we can read into those things. I really and truly don't. Lainey, we've been getting a lot of comments on our previous episodes, and I think you've pulled them together, haven't you?
Yeah. So speaking of what people are thinking one way or another, I do have some comments pulled up. It's a little bit of a short week for comments. I got 2 videos for you guys today. So this is actually, I wasn't here for this episode. This was for the Kevin Curtis interview. So Red, was this Red's first episode that she appeared in?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Let's see what you guys have to say about that. I don't know if I pulled anything too specific about Red, but let's see some of the commentary. So over here, I actually got a little tidbit. I like it, grabbing some of the conversation that's happening. So Ed Riley, 2703, attorneys. The bigger question here is if there's truly enough evidence required to hold Brian in jail for this long duration before his trial date. Seems to me that the actual evidence against him is very weak, and yet he sits in jail for over 3 years before his trial. And then Heather Mosher replies back, some states have dismissals due to lack of evidence, but Idaho is one of the states that does not have dismissal or bond due to lack of evidence. So the strength of the evidence doesn't matter in Idaho and is not considered for bond or dismissals. And then Musical Contessa says, you're precisely correct. The Kohberger case should reverse Frazier versus Cobb.
Yoli, let's go back to comment number 2 there. I'm not sure that's true. So the strength of the evidence doesn't matter in Idaho and is not considered for bond or dismissals. So, I should have read the first sentence first. Some states have dismissals due to lack of evidence, but Idaho is one of the states that does not have dismissal or bond due to the lack of. I don't know if that's true. My understanding is you can at any time apply for a review of bond. You can apply at any time for the review of the bond if there are new facts, if there are substantial new facts. Suppose somebody, hypothetically comes out of the woodwork and says, I did it. Brian Kohberger has nothing to do with it. I did it. I would think that's, substantial change of circumstances such that a bond review would be entitled. So I don't know. Maybe we should have Mr. Curtis on again to explain all that.
Yeah, because I'm not sure about that because the Constitution would require that you be set free if there's no evidence, right? I mean,
yes,
you can't just lock somebody up without any evidence.
Right. Hopefully.
Oh, the idea of sitting in jail for so long is even like before having a conviction is crazy to me.
And we don't even know
obviously when
we don't even know what they have.
Yeah, it's just like you want people that are dangerous off the streets, but at the same time, it's just like,
Let me read Jake Hardy's comment. Jake Hardy says, I think the damage has been done. Prosecution could just show a blank screen, paper data, and speak a language no one would understand, and the biased jury will still rule a guilty verdict. I hope that's wrong. I hope.
Wow. Well, it's up to the attorney, his attorney, to pick a jury and the prosecution to pick a jury. So they can only do so much in terms of screening jurors,
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to what Susan said, where it's just like, theoretically, we could have all these people just done with the case, want them out of their town, and it's like, get them out of here.
Yeah, that's true.
We never know. Did you want to read this one, Yoli?
This is from Deception Dismantled. Deception Dismantled. Thank you. Those were great questions. I love Yoli. I love Yoli, and Red, in my opinion, is very smart, and she had an awesome question. I always miss Lainey. I know she is busy. Mr. Myers, I always enjoy you. Having Mr. Curtis was such a good idea. Great work.
Oh, what a great comment. Thank you.
Gotta get the comments that gas us up.
Keep them rolling in.
It is good to have a criminal attorney because people think we're attorneys and we know everything, but in practice it's very different. I mean, it's good
because he's out there. You're in California, I'm here in New England, and he's out there. He's in Spokane, Washington, and so he kind of knows the ropes out there. And he was at one time the president of the Washington State Criminal Defense Attorneys Association, and he's been practicing law for a long time. So yeah, we'll have to get him back on soon. I think he emailed me. He enjoyed his experience, and so hopefully we will get him back on sometime.
And I think you have a good point about him being in Washington and having a better lay of land, because it's funny how different, I mean, especially you at home watching us right now, we are talking, you feel like you're familiar with us, you feel like we're friends. But at the end of the day, everywhere you go, every state has a completely different culture. I like to think about what I'm going to do with my degree and where I'm going to go. And I have a lot of family in New York, and I'm like, oh, but how am I going to get a job in like New York? Versus like, I think about Los Angeles, and it's like, maybe I'll move to Los Angeles. And it's like, why do you think you can work in New York and not Los Angeles? It's like, the cultures are very different. New York is very dog eats dog. Los Angeles is a little bit more, a little laid back. I mean, you still have like places like San Francisco, but from city to city, from state to state, things vary a lot. So yeah. So I'll read this one. AJ Hartong. Once again, I'm voicing an opinion prior to listening to the channel viewpoint. This is because in this instance, I have a high opinion of your channel's insight and open to opposing sides. Plus, it's easy to follow the chain of thoughts due to the lack of mumbo jumbo. Too many commentators do play the gallery. Several I subscribe to. Limited income means I do not have memberships. However, that hardly means that a subscriber is less support for those channels. They do care deeply about, most sincerely from a small Virginia farm. Thank you so much, AJ. I thought that was a really sweet comment. And I think it's, we appreciate everybody, whether you're members or subscribers. Right now, we don't have any members perks.
I thought we had one. We have one.
We have members. We don't have member benefits. So some channels will do like behind the scenes. Maybe we owe you guys some behind the scenes footage, but thank you, AJ. Now following into another video. So we have the flurry of Idaho 4 documents. So sending the case off the rails. The case been off the rails.
And there's Ashley Jennings with her shush. With some people, I actually got a comment that I haven't seen any other creators mention that, so that never happened. Yeah, it did happen.
You showed the video.
Yeah, and we gave the timestamp. I think it was about 53 or 54 minutes in, if my memory serves me correctly, that she most certainly did say either hush or judge, and we had a little contest, and way more people said she said. What's that?
I thought it was shush.
Yeah.
And so way more people, but I actually had one comment that never happened because I didn't see any other creators mention it. So what?
All right. So we have Daniel Renfro. I'm just an old guy that builds and works on things for a living. I know from experience, if the parts don't fit, it won't work. Ford parts don't work with Chevy just because you got a pile of parts. They have to be two right parts for something to work. Point now being states parts don't fit the giving box of junk that doesn't work or fit with the application. A good one is the state says we gave you video, but it isn't for a time frame that's even useful. But if you need something else, it's in the evidence room in the basement. Good luck finding it. And I think that was a huge thing and a good point of a lot of comments where it's just messy. It's just like, here's this video. Here's no time frame. Like, just if you need anything else, go find it yourself. And I think that was a big issue where what are we even using in court? What's going to be the evidence? What are we trying to say with this? Why are we giving junk video? Yeah. Anyway, Andrew, I'll pass this little conversation off to you.
Okay, this is Greg Willett says, it amazes me that people can just flip reality on its head completely, claiming that it's the defense who is delaying everything when it's so empirically obvious it's the state delaying everything. And then Lanny responds, I totally agree with you and have been so annoyed by this. It's absolutely bizarre how people say the defense is delaying the trial. And then Cat YM5RL says, and where is the rest of the alibi that's stalling on defense? BK should know where the hell he was without the prosecution telling him. Come on now. Now they're all good comments. I mean, it is hard to believe that people think that it's the defense stalling when really if the prosecution is not giving them all the evidence that's been requested. But they're all good comments. Thank you. Thank you.
We like the conversation. Yoli, I got Mercy Cat for you.
Okay. I'm wondering if the prosecution is afraid it will be exposed that some of the relatives will tell investigators that they never gave certain ancestry sites permission to share their DNA info with LE.
I don't know if that would be relevant, though. What do you think about that, Yoli?
Well, it goes to the probable cause, to get to come to the conclusion that Kohberger was the main suspect, or, he was the one who did it because of the DNA. So, whether or not that comes into a trial, I don't know, but because normally the ancestry DNA and all that stuff doesn't come in, is my understanding. But I don't know. I don't think that the relatives would have already come forward if that were the case.
Maybe they haven't. We don't know. I mean, I kind of see it as a red herring. Although I don't know. It's a sideshow.
I feel like from a tech perspective, and as attorneys, especially civil attorneys, you guys probably have a better understanding of this than I do. But I feel like if you're a DNA collection, like really, how many terms of service do we just scroll by and hit I agree to? I would never do that, obviously. But it's like, I feel like the ancestry sites, a million paragraphs deep. We have the right to share your information with da 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 da. So I don't know if it would necessarily be pertinent in this case where they're trying to like, oh, I did whatever, it's 30 and me or whatever it's called, and swabbed, and I didn't give them permission. That's the way I see it.
All right.
Longtime viewer Tina. Hello, Tina. I wonder what would happen if the mitigation expert's family tree was completely different from whatever the prosecution is presenting as the IGG tree, which is a lot of actually what the comments were saying. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I really don't know how it will impact the trial because the IGG isn't going into the actual trial. It's an interesting thing for us to discuss, but I don't think it's going to be an issue at the trial. This person, Randy, who's a regular, thank you, Randy, says JJJ isn't planning on changing the venue. That's why he scheduled the hearing in late August. I can already read him like a book. And Tony Stevenson says, tend to agree he won't grant it. Further, he has to keep it in Latop. Oh, darn, then we just wasted this whole episode. Just erase it. Because this whole episode was just erased.
Canceled.
We don't know. We don't know. You might be right, Randy. You may well be right, but I don't know. It's an issue that has to be explored, and if the court doesn't explore it, it sure is another, and I emphasize, another issue for appeal, right, Yoli?
Yeah. And he has to go. I mean, I always want to know what law the judge is relying on in making his decisions. Just like him moving, like the prosecution wanting the trial to a date when there's no school buses. I don't know if there's any law or precedent.
That's an interesting point. What is the Idaho standard for determining whether or not the trial moves? Is it something that's clear, or is it something that in so many areas of the law, it's not a clear, there's no bright line standard for it. So that's a good question, and we'll answer it in an upcoming episode.
All right. I believe, okay, we have at least two more, but I think this might be the second to last. Did you want to read this one, Yoli?
Yeah. This is from Deborah Crawford 5005, and it says, I think the case is not truly backed by complete evidence. What we have seen, at least, it's not convincing enough. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny because you have a lot of people in our comments who feel really strongly one way or really strongly the other way. I mean, we just saw with the Karen Reed case, how divisive reasonable doubt could be.
And all it takes is one juror. I mean, if you get one juror who's from that church who just absolutely does not believe the police, he could say not guilty, and the others are guilty. And if they can't come to a conclusion, what's going to happen?
And it gets back to the question of making sure there's a really effective voir dire to get jurors in there that are not going to just bring their outside biases in. And if you really don't feel that you can send somebody to jail, you have no place on a jury, because again, it's de rigueur these days. Oh, I don't judge. Yes, you do judge. If you're going to be a jury, if you don't want to judge, you're not qualified to be a juror. You have to be able to sit and listen to the evidence. And after you hear all the evidence, then yes, it is your job to judge. Here are the elements of the crimes. There are 5 charges in the Kohberger case. And there are various elements for each of those. Your job as a juror is to listen to all the evidence and decide whether, yes, it fills those elements, or no, it doesn't. I'm not saying it's simple, but that's your job. So if you have to back up onto your moral principles, you have no place on a jury.
So Fiona Stewart Murray. It's looking more likely that law enforcement may have used distant family members who may not have signed the waiver to make up the IGG, which this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Would this really be relevant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
James Dean. Hey, look, James Dean is one of our viewers. He says, "Good morning. The sheath has my attention. Someone snapped the button shut. Wouldn't it leave oils and a print from a hand locking it down? Also want to know body fluids from Kaylee or Maddie or both on the sheath found under Maddie." Well, yeah, we just don't know. We don't, those are really good questions, but, we don't know. We only have the limited information that they gave us. And, what if an expert comes in and says, yeah, there should have been a lot more, or there should have been a lot less? I don't know.
But it was touch DNA, and the sheath is not the murder weapon. So
right, right, exactly. It was touch DNA, which has been called into question. I know people don't agree with this, but it's been called into question legally by other courts. And so, and the real problem is that there's just, yes, it had to be a messy site. I don't care what anybody else says. It had to have been a messy site with 4 people killed brutally by a knife. It had to be a really mess. And a lot of things don't make sense. The sheath, the one footprint, there's a lot of things, and we've done a couple of episodes about that, and it's just, I don't know.
And then you have blood. I don't know if I can say that on, but dripping down the house. If that, some people say it wasn't, that it was like rust, but that wasn't there in the prior pictures.
No, it was blood.
So how,
I know some people say it wasn't, but it was.
So how can you have a nice clean scene when there's blood dripping from the scene of the house?
No, it was not a nice clean scene. It's just, there's no way.
Yeah, that kind of goes with the DNA too, where, like you said, it's not a nice clean scene. The touch DNA is one thing, but we don't even have a fingerprint. It's just like you said, with all the mess, it's just like how much other DNA was in that room.
Yeah, and I think it's important because people always say, "Oh, there was DNA on the sheath." Well, it was touch DNA, and the sheath is not the murder weapon. So let's put that into perspective, because a lot of people think the sheath, and it's like the sheath didn't kill anybody. The sheath, we don't even know if it even held a knife.
That's what I was gonna say. We don't even know necessarily what the murder weapon was. We just have a sheath.
And from what we've heard from what Nancy Mabit, the medical examiner, said, the wounds of the victims were different and distinct. And, Xana and Ethan's wounds were described in one way, and Maddie and Kaylee's were described in another way. And, I think a lot of people, including me, just are having a hard time buying that one person did all this. Right. A lot of people just don't agree that one person did all this. And we did an episode about 18 reasons why it was 2 people. I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, but it's just, I still to this day have a really hard time believing that one person did all of this. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry.
I can't go up my stairs, and the 10 minutes that we have is just like going up my stairs, my poor sore legs, and there goes 2 minutes. I don't know.
So we leave with some interesting issues that are out there. We're in the near future, we're going to talk to yet another expert about this whole idea that because Brian and his attorney were sitting the distance that they were, can you really read anything into that? I mean, people speculate, and we have another expert online to talk about that. And then the thing that's coming up next is the whole question we've been talking about a little bit here, the change of venue. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? A lot of people, like our commenter, feel that that judge is not going to allow it. He'll sit there, with the Cheshire cat grin that he has and listen to everything and then not allow it. There are a lot of people that say that Bill Thompson, over his dead body, would allow this to be. It's not his decision, but apparently he and the judge have some kind of professional history, I'll say. And so a lot of people say, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I think just for the very reason alone that they cited the school buses as a reason that they have to get this trial done in the summer, I think that alone mitigates in favor of getting the trial the hell out of Ladog County. I mean, that just seems like a spurious reason.
And it's like, where's everybody going to park? Where is everybody going to park?
Take an Uber.
Yeah. I guess the other issue is that a lot of other evidence is going to be, unveiled in the coming weeks and months before the trial. And then there'll be motions in limine and motions to suppress. So this case may not even look going into the trial in June of 2025. The context may be totally different than what we all thought way back in January of 2023 when the probable cause affidavit came out. That's my feeling, is that things are going to be really very different and we're going to learn a lot. So
Yeah.
that's my closing thought. You guys?
It's messy. From the beginning, I mean, we see with the Karen Reed case, I don't know how they're going to get an unbiased jury, but we're just going to have to see how this goes.
Yeah, it's messy. And I'm just thinking, gosh, I hope it's not a hung jury.
Oh gosh, wouldn't that be after all of this? Wouldn't that be a real letdown? But
I believe I've mentioned this in a prior episode, but I think that we're going to reach a point that because of social media and even just AI technology and how you're able to make videos look and everything, I feel like there's going to end up being some type of technological intervention in court cases to some way, whether it be having AI more involved in the jury selection process or whatever have it. I think that this is getting very difficult. This is becoming a very difficult problem to solve when you're trying to separate all these people from the media around them.
I think that's a really good idea for a future episode. Delaney, you just brought up a really, really, really good point. And we should probably see if we can find an expert to come on and talk to us in the near future, because in the old days, I'm old enough to remember when your father would come home at the end of the day and throw his feet up on the coffee table and read the paper. And that was our entire view of the world. You would read the paper, and then some nitwit would come on TV and basically reread all the stories that were on TV, because that's what they did in the old days. The old time TV network guys, ABC, NBC, CBS, that was it. Nobody listened to PBS then or now. I didn't say that, strike that. In the old days, that was your whole view of the world. NBC, CBS, ABC, and maybe a little bit of PBS. That was it. Now, the media people are saying in 15 years or so, that stuff's not even going to exist. Everybody will get all of their information from YouTube, TikTok, and those sources, as we know, are not necessarily vetted as clearly. Not that the big media are always right, because they're not. But I mean, the point is that in the old days, the information that did get out and reach the jury pool was fixed and controlled. Now, information comes from all over the place. You can tune in to a creator from China. You can tune into a creator from, anywhere in the world, and hopefully they've done their research, as do we, but maybe they're just making it up as they go along. Look at that whole thing with the tunnels. Now, that's ridiculous. There's no tunnels. There's tunnels.
And even if there were, what is it? Nothing has, we have nothing showing that anything happened regarding the tunnels. I mean, I don't know.
Really? Are you trying to tell me that you don't have a tunnel connecting to your house?
I don't know. I might.
If I have it, nobody told me.
I just said that as an example, that in the old days, that whether they were right or wrong, the information flow was controlled. Now the information comes from all kinds of all over places, and the tunnels is just one example of stuff that people say that, now it's in everybody's minds. And you know what? For weeks and weeks and weeks, and we even fell victim to this, for weeks and weeks and weeks, everybody was talking about tunnels. And so that guy got a lot of attention, that he brought it up. And there have been a lot of other things like that.
Yeah, even when the house was torn down, people were saying, see, there's the tunnel. There's the tunnel.
Right.
And I'm like, well,
yeah. So
it's just they get things in their head, and it's just they want to see it.
So how are we going to even have fair trials in the future if people are getting this kind of information and they're building up their biases? Some people call it confirmation bias. That's fine. My psychology book is back on the shelf somewhere. But people build these early preconceived notions from this stuff that's out there. So I think it's a good question. Is just the nature of a jury trial going to have to change because we have people getting well, the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
It
it's
kind of reminds me of when a friend tried to send me like a list of like high protein foods, and number 3 was corn.
Was
It's like,
what?
corn?
Corn?
It's like, oh, tofu, eggs, corn. It's like, there's no protein in corn. Like, why are you sending this to me?
It's all starch, isn't it? Isn't corn mostly all starch?
You don't like protein in your carbs.
oh, that's
Or
weird.
legumes.
But yeah, it's not it's nonsensical sometimes. But when creators they have their view on things, and because they look at a layout of a house or something, they think and interpret tunnels right underneath the house, and oh my God, that must have been how they took the bodies in. And there's all kinds of people that do that. But I guess AI might play a role in picking juries, because it's a lot for an attorney to do.
I don't trust AI. I don't trust it at all. I'm one of those people that just, I've had some bad experiences with AI. I've had some bad experiences personally with AI. And so I don't know. Is that the answer, Yoli? Letting AI, just giving up and conceding and flying the white flag? Oh, just let computers do everything?
No, just using it, not completely replacing the attorney's, questioning, but using it to weed out certain people. But in terms of actually keeping someone, I think the attorney has to be involved in keeping a juror. But you can weed out certain ones maybe by using AI. I mean, I know that, with AI, you can ask it to draft discovery questions on a slip and fall case, and you insert certain information of the plaintiff and blah, 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 and then it'll whip up some discovery questions for a slip and fall. But
devil's advocate question for you. When I do a discovery request in a slip and fall case, I have books full of stuff, which slowly we're all getting it on the computer. Why can't I do that myself? Why do I need AI to do it for me? Because ultimately, the attorney under Rule 11 has to sign off that he's read everything and it's truthful and complete and accurate. So if you have to read over it all and rewrite AI's mistakes anyhow, why not just do it yourself? What do you need AI for?
Well, Andrew, I can make the argument that you've been an attorney for longer than I've been alive, and you're used to doing things the old-fashioned way.
But it works.
The way that I see it
works.
Is that as a society, we got to this point that we're at by using technology. We made fire, we made electricity, we harnessed these powers, and now you have 25 years ago, we have this phenomenon where all of a sudden now people are getting high power computers in their pockets, when 100 years ago people didn't even know what a computer was. We didn't really even have computers. So I feel like because things are growing at such an exponential rate, I feel like adopting technology and kind of promoting it is going to be the way to go. Even Susan mentioned in her process, she uses her own skills, but also augments it with her own software that she has. I think that that's going to have to be the way of the future, because we don't have 100 years experience of the internet. So we need a way to kind of crack down on that. One of the benefits of AI and, one of the downfalls is that it goes through information so quickly. That's why, people talk highly of Google's AI Gemini, where as an attorney, you can't read every single case in a million years. And, maybe having
I can't read them all.
He's good at reading. He's good at research. He comes to me with a stack of papers every day. But, I think AI, like how we talked about, it would be nice to, when looking at other trials and stuff, to have an AI go find the court case, find the verdict, be able to cite it appropriately. I think right now as society, we're used to like AI, like ChatGPT, where ChatGPT and other AI is meant to talk to us. I think the future we're going to see is that you're going to have AI more specialized towards things like the YouTube algorithm that pushes out our videos. Shout out YouTube. Thank you to AI. Hope push out our video, YouTube.
Well, I'm all in for technology. Trust me, I'm all in for technology. I love it. When I worked at a firm, they thought that they called computers like that. Oh, that's just an electronic typewriter for the girls.
Word processing.
I was the one that said, let's bring the computers in. I'm all for it. I'm all for bringing the most recent technology into the office. But AI is dangerous. And we talked about this case. There was a case of a law firm in New York City that wrote a brief, and AI generated some citations to law that were just wrong. They were just absolutely wrong. And so these attorneys, and we did a short on this about a year ago, and these attorneys in New York were all sanctioned. They were all sanctioned. So I had a bad experience with AI. There's a group out there that'll remain unnamed that is out there, trying to help us people on YouTube. And they were going to write the description, which I do very little anymore. But when I first started doing this, I would do a description. And so AI wrote the description for one of our podcasts on a totally different criminal case. And they said, oh, isn't it nice now that Mr. Defendant is out there back out of jail with his family, starting his life again? Well, the guy was being held for trial for murdering his 5-year-old daughter. So, if AI is going to make that kind of mistake, and if I can be sanctioned if it's a court document, that tells me that I need to, under Rule 11, read every single word that I not only submit to court, but if I even use for something simple like a description down below for something like this. So, yes, I'm all for technology, but you got to watch it.
Yeah.
You need to watch
I wouldn't use. I wouldn't use AI. I'm just saying that these high volume attorneys, these ones that take like tons and tons of personal injury cases that you see on TV, they might use it because it's quicker. They think it's quicker. But at the same time, I do medical malpractice primarily. So I do my own specific tailored discovery, but yeah, it's dangerous to use AI and rely on it. Like it's the savior of all, like I have more time now because I can use AI to generate all this. But you have to be careful because, those attorneys were sanctioned. And
they were sanctioned for using it.
And I think I don't mean to cut you off. I was just going to add that with the AI too, I think it's kind of like a calculator where, you can have two people, give them both a calculator and put them in calculus 1, and one's going to be drooling and not know what to do. And then the other one's going to get their exact answers with the calculator. I think a lot of it goes into the experience of how you're using it, because theoretically, even as an attorney, like you don't need to use the AI to do the research. You can just you can tell the AI, okay, I have these points that I want to make across. Can you put this together all nicely and be done in that sense? So, sorry, I cut you off, Andrew.
No, that's all right. But you still have to read it.
You still have
I would not go in front of a judge with a document that some AI wrote. I wouldn't even do it because, part of the process is thinking it through. You only agree or disagree with me, but when you have a motion, you've got to write, whether it's discovery or you get a motion for summary judgment, and you've got to respond to that motion for summary judgment. Part of the process is not just throwing papers into a computer and letting it spit out an answer. Part of the process is sitting down, outlining it, thinking about it, analyzing it, changing it, because maybe your initial thought was wrong and you change it, and then you go out and do the research, which on the computer is really a lot more easy these days. I know I didn't say that correctly, but so part of the whole process is thinking it out and putting it together and doing your own research and then doing it. And I would be really wary of just letting AI throw it all together and then running into court after lunch and saying, Your Honor, this is what I think. And then, Your Honor, she has a bunch of law students and paralegals and clerks who have read every word that I've submitted to her. And they're saying, Mr. Myers, this is wrong. Mr. Myers, your AI made up this citation. Mr. Myers, this is just flat out wrong. We're not only going to disbar you, but we're going to
bar you from using AI.
All technology has good and bad. I mean, it goes back to fire. We all cook our dinner at the end of whatever, but you can burn down your neighbor's house. I mean, so, sure, the technology will be great, but it's not. I think a lot of people have said it's pretty far from being there yet.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like a calculator. You can just write random answers and hand them in, or you can use it to help and proofread your work. I mean, at the end of the day, even though you have to read what the AI said, you have to proofread your own work anyway. So it's, for a lot of people, it's all about how you use it. Some people, like you said, with that one case, some people will just try to have it do their job. But if you don't know enough, it's not going to work.
Do you know what intern Red said to me the other day? It's too bad she's not here to defend herself. We were having this same conversation. She said, and she's young, and I've been practicing 10 times longer than she's been alive. You know what she said to me? She said, AI will kill us all.
It probably will.
You know, I think it's either going to take us to a new level or be the downfall of society. We'll find out in 10 years.
Remember the paperclip experiment? Let's close on this note, and maybe we'll do the paperclip experiment before. But the paperclips, AI was told to just make paperclips. That's your entire job. Make paperclips, and so AI ended up killing all the people and turning them into paperclips.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me making this up. This is some really heady guy that's 10 times headier than me that sits around and thinks this stuff up. But AI is just directed to do one task, and it doesn't really do it with context or thought. So anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I believe it was ChatGPT at some point last year decided to do math for fun. So
Right.
we really don't have control.
And it was making up the answers. A lot of the answers were wrong.
Well,
Remember that?
ChatGPT is a conversational bot. So
Right.
that's the thing with ChatGPT, is not designed to do math. And sometimes, and that's what I'm saying with like a calculator. Like for me, for example, in my calculus class, I asked ChatGPT to help me with the question. ChatGPT is kind of giving me a little nonsense, but it knows enough to like where I can follow it and be like, okay, you messed up here. Let's change this. So at the end of the day, you know, it's up to the person to determine, are they going to expect it to do them all, or are they going to use it like a calculator where it's just kind of to help you out with something that you could write on a piece of paper and think about just accelerated. It's like Photoshop, you know, it's just like, do you want to cut out the paper? Do you want to do object select and cut?
Everyone, please have a great day. If you're in the grocery store or if you're in the parking garage or the gas station, be kind to people, be nice to people, because you really don't know what they're going through. People do go through things and they don't show it on their faces. But also down in our comments, we love your comments, but be kind, be respectful. Don't personalize it, but tell us what you think. We don't mind if people disagree with us. So we hope you all have a great day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions.
Okay.
And that's that.
And that's that.
Yeah.
Watch out for those paper clips.
Watch out for AI.
I don't do any of that. I'm too old school myself.